Major crime detectives are hunting a killer following the savage murder of a 22-year-old woman at Quorn in the state's mid-north. Neighbours say the well-known camel rider was bashed to death a short distance from her home.
A horse rider discovered Jessie Lee Fullerton's body on Groves Road just before 4 o'clock this morning. She was just 70 metres from her home.
She was found lying side of a car on the road.
The 22-year-old childcare worker who had dwarfism was widely known and respected in the community.
She was a nice girl, God, wouldn't hurt a fly, She'd do anything for you, because she was only tiny and she had no hope in hell of defending herself.
She lived with her grandparents. Loved ones can't understand why anyone would want to hurt her.
She had so many friends, and she could see home from where they found her, and that's the most devastating part.
She'd be the last person I would think that someone would want to hurt.
Detectives say Jessie was drinking with a group of people at Quorn hotels till about 10 o'clock last night. They want anyone who knows her movements after that to come forward. There'll be an increased police presence in the town to reassure residents they're not at risk. Detectives have this message for the killer.
Now's the time to come forward. We will be relentless in our investigation for the person or persons responsible for this.
Whoever's done this, like Christ, he want to look out. Yeah, he's got it coming.
Pkg Quorn, 7 News.
Good evening. 7 News understands the man accused of murdering 2 young women at Quorn in the state's north met one of them online. The 16-year-old Port Pirie schoolgirl told her parents she was catching up with a boyfriend, but she never came home.
Detectives made a breakthrough last night arresting a young man from Quorn. Jessie Lee Fullerton's body was found with head injuries early yesterday next to her four-wheel drive, about 70 metres from her grandparents' home where she lived. Grieving loved ones have flocked to the town to pay tribute to the popular camel jockey and childcare worker.
For such a small town like this, the community, to have, what's happened, it was a shock. I knew both of them. I just can't believe it happened.
Detectives say when they identified the suspect, they found he was connected with Port Pirie 16-year-old Rebecca Wild, who was reported missing on Tuesday night.
It would appear that the murder of Jessie was a result of her coming across this person with the first victim.
This morning, police excavated a grave at the Quorn Cemetery and recovered a body. It's understood Rebecca met the accused on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, but the teenager was warned by friends not to continue their online romance. She told her parents she was going for a walk to meet a boyfriend and never returned. Her death has rocked the Port Pirie community.
A young girl in year 10 who's a conscientious student who works really hard at school, who's well liked by staff.
Quorn residents are still coming to grips with what's happened. They've lost a local legend, Jessie, and a young man who everybody knows is facing 2 counts of murder.
Everybody's hurting. I mean, his family, his friends, Jessie's, just her family, the whole community.
Pkg Quorn, 7 News.
Good evening. 3 people have died in a horror smash on the Barrier Highway, about 300 kilometres north of Adelaide. The 2 cars crashed head-on, leaving no survivors.
Investigators aren't yet sure why, but on this straight stretch of road in clear weather at around 8 a.m. this morning, the 2 cars crashed head-on at high speed and 3 lives were lost in an instant. An elderly man and woman in their 70s were travelling in the sedan heading west, while the four-wheel drive driven by a man in his late 50s was heading east. It's believed he was heading home to Broken Hill. A passing motorist came across the crash scene within minutes and called for help, but it was too late.
Officer in charge of Yunta Police Station, he was on scene about 8:35 a.m. He's only 25 kilometres east of this location.
Major crash investigators travelled to the remote location and spent the day trying to piece together how things went so horribly wrong.
It is unfortunate and it'll affect those people that have lost these loved ones. It'll affect them greatly.
Police say it's a tragic reminder for motorists to be extra careful when travelling on country roads.
Just to be alert and drive safely and appropriately, and then and if you're driving long distances, rest every 2 hours.
Meanwhile, a mother rolled her car just north of Gladstone this morning whilst taking 4 children to netball. An 18-month-old boy thrown from the vehicle was airlifted to the Royal Adelaide Hospital in a serious condition, along with a 10-year-old girl. A 5-year-old and an 8-year-old were also injured. The state's road toll now stands at 61 compared to 73 for the same time last year. In Yunta, Roscoe Whalen, 7 News.